Greetings everyone, welcome back to the channel. So there's a lot of videos out there that don't really meet the criteria for an episode of ATA, and there are a bunch of different reasons for why that may be the case. Some videos are just simply too violent, some really don't have anything to learn from, some of them we've covered the topics too many times in the past, and some of them are just too short to make a full episode. So I thought it might be a good idea to take a few of these videos that are just too short for ATA and maybe just review them with you, take a look at them, see what they got going. A few of these got very popular, but like I said, they were just too short to really make an episode of ATA, but I did get a lot of requests for them, so I think you guys may be interested in hearing what I have to say about these videos, if nothing else. Of course, this is not like a full breakdown or an episode of ATA, if you will, but it'll at least give you an idea of like where I may have went with the episode if it had been featured on ATA. But let me know if you like this style of content, if you like me reviewing these shorter videos and kind of just giving you my takes on them. If so, I'll continue to do that, and you feel free to send me any videos that you want. So without further ado, let's just dive right in and take a look at these videos. All right, so this first video that we have up is one that got super popular when it first came out. I mean, it went viral. It was all over social media platforms, Reddit, Twitter, you name it. Like I said earlier, it was a little too short to be featured on ATA, but I had a lot of people tag me in it, email it to me. The video that I'm using today was originally uploaded by Photography is Not a Crimes channel, and if you haven't heard of them, be sure to check them out. They were one of the first to start recording and reporting on police activity, so they certainly deserve your support if you're interested in that kind of thing. This video took place in November of 2021, and it comes to us from Sunrise, Florida.
On my wrist, I can't move. Let go. So what you gotta do? So just get in the car. Alright, just get in the car.
No, he doesn't want in the car. Fuck it. Get in the car. Get in the car. All right, I'm getting in. Get your feet in. What's up, motherfucker? Hey, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You want to fucking play fucking games? You're playing with the wrong motherfucker! What you gotta do, man? You gonna mace me? Look at me, motherfucker. You wanna play fucking games? You ever get disrespectful with my fucking officers, I will remove your fucking soul from your fucking body! Do it, man. Do what you gotta do. Don't ever fucking touch me again.
Sir.
Get the fuck off me.
Sir. Just let it be.
We clear?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so we actually have two camera angles for this video, but I wanted to go ahead and stop it here to kind of just give you some context about what you just saw and explain like what's going on. So apparently these officers were attempting to get a man that they had just arrested into the back of a patrol car, and that's when Sergeant Christopher Police pulls up on the scene and decides to kind of take things into his own hands. So he goes over to the guy who they're attempting to push into this car, and at this point they pretty much got him in the car. He's not really a threat, he's in the car. They can close the door at any time. As a matter of fact, you can see this sergeant lean into the car to get to where this guy is at. And then obviously he just throws insults at the guy. He seems like he's aggravated and irritated by something else going on. Like he carried this anger over to this stop from somewhere else. I don't want to say steroids, but you know. So he grabs this guy and he pulls out some pepper spray and he's basically threatening this guy. And then he escalates it to threatening this guy's life, saying he will take his life, essentially. Now those are pretty much crimes in and of themselves. You can't just threaten people's lives like that, regardless of whether or not they're your prisoner. There's certainly an argument to be made that this was excessive force, just what we've seen so far, pushing the guy in there, further back into the car, threatening him with mace for no apparent reason. Nonetheless, just seeing what we have seen so far, it's pretty clear that this guy probably shouldn't be a cop, much less a sergeant. I mean, you gotta think, this guy is an individual who's actually over other cops. He's supposed to be an example for these other officers to follow, and yet this is the kind of conduct that he's doing just in plain view. Not to mention, I'm sure he knew that a body camera was rolling. He knew that many other officers were recording at the time, that what he was about to say would be documented in some way, shape, or form, and he just didn't care. Now you can draw your own conclusions from that, but to me that kind of says that this officer may have gotten away with similar things in the past. Towards the end of this first angle, one of his fellow officers pulls him back off of the guy. Once the sergeant notices he's being pulled back, he turns around and grabs the throat of the officer who was attempting to get him off of this guy. He also says, "Don't ever touch me again," insinuating that like what he was doing should not be interrupted by anyone regardless of who they are. If a cop can't stop another cop from committing misconduct, I mean, what's the world coming to? But anyway, let's check out this second angle, just kind of get a better idea of like what's going on.
Get your feet in. Watch out, motherfucker. Hey, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You want to fucking play fucking games? You're playing with the wrong motherfucker. You gonna mace me, mace me. Look at me, motherfucker. You want to play fucking games? You never get disrespectful with my fucking officer. I will throw your fucking soul from your fucking body. Do what you gotta do. Fucking. Don't ever fucking touch me again. Get the fuck off.
Just let it be.
I don't understand that.
We clear?
Yes, sir.
And I'll fucking see you in about 5 minutes.
Alright, so from that other angle, it's much more apparent like what actually happened. This situation got to a point where this female officer felt that some kind of violent action may be coming, and she just wanted to be preemptive, calm down her superior, try to take at least a little bit of control over the situation so it doesn't get out of hand. It's very clear that the sergeant did not care to escalate the situation. He wanted more escalation. He wanted to mace this guy. And it blows my mind that there was only one officer among the group that was standing there that had the gall to actually grab their superior and pull them off of this guy. That is good police work. I can only imagine how difficult it must be to grab your boss by their belt and pull them back. That takes a lot of courage, bravery, character. Those are the kind of attributes that I would like to see in police officers. I certainly don't appreciate attitudes like the sergeant's, who is angry at nothing, and not to mention him grabbing his own officer by the throat. Like, what does that say to all of these other officers standing around and screaming in her face not to touch him, as if he should just be allowed to do whatever he wants in their presence, even if it's breaking the law. I mean, one thing to understand is like, these other officers are at risk of losing their job because of what this sergeant is doing. Typically, when there are lawsuits involving excessive force, there are multiple officers named in this lawsuit, depending on who was there. You don't necessarily have to participate in excessive force to be an accomplice to it. Now, it's one thing to commit excessive force. That's something that you would handle in the courtroom, and the victim would have to file a lawsuit. But grabbing an officer by the throat, a fellow officer, is a crime. That's assault. That's something that he could have been charged with right then and there. If these other officers wanted to, they probably could have legally arrested their sergeant for committing assault on their fellow officer. This goes to show how detrimental bad leadership can be in a police force and how much that echoes throughout the culture of that department. If you have bad leadership, not only will it trickle down to the lower ranks, it will fall down like a waterfall. The hierarchy of police ranks is very important within the culture. It's really hard to articulate how difficult this must have been for this woman, and I can't commend her enough for her bravery. But the video is not quite over yet. There's a few things that happen after this officer's outrage, and let's take a look at it.
Everybody turn off their cameras.
Sergeant Police has received the Medal of Valor, the Officer of the Year Award. He's a 7-time recipient of the Officer of the Month Award. He's received 4 Outstanding Unit Awards, and he's received in excess of 40 departmental commendation letters. And I'm proud to be promoting Chris Police to the rank of Sergeant today.
Well, what a cherry on top. He tells everyone to shut off their body cameras. And then, of course, photography is not a crime, added a little detail in there showing you about what a great officer this department thought he was. And once again, this goes back to my point about the culture of policing within a department especially is largely dictated by the leadership of that department. If you have sergeants running amok, doing whatever they want, saying whatever they want to the public, this is the kind of policing that you're going to end up with. Oftentimes, the practicalities of policing don't necessarily line up with the law or the guidelines of policing, and this is an example of how that can really get off the rails. I mean, this sergeant felt justified in everything that he did in the moment, and it just blows my mind that someone got to leadership position with that attitude. I mean, after all, policing is a customer service job. And if your personality traits aren't tailored to customer service jobs, you probably shouldn't be a police officer. So unsurprisingly enough, a little while after this video, was released, Sergeant Police retired. Interestingly enough, his retirement letter was literally one sentence saying, "I retire." And we all know that this was obviously a way to avoid being reprimanded or having any official marks on your record. But that's not the end of the story, because he was later also charged with 4 different crimes, which also included assault and battery on a police officer. Like I said, he could have been arrested right in that moment for what he did. And just to be clear, he was actually arrested and went to jail and had to bond out like anyone else in this situation. So it's no surprise that the Sunrise Fraternal Order of Police kind of took the sergeant's side on this one. They ended up calling the chief, who had condemned the actions of the sergeant, quote, bias and prejudice. If nothing else, it's good to see that this former sergeant was held at least to some degree of accountability. Although, in my opinion, it probably should have been right in that moment. But of course, the law works in mysterious ways. I don't really have any information on the female officer that was involved, but I don't really think she was fired or disciplined in any way, which is good too, of course. Alright, so this next video was one that I was sent quite a few times as well, but unfortunately I don't really have a lot of context for this video. It was originally uploaded on August 14th of 2023 by a channel named Slow VQ. This channel doesn't have any other videos on it, so I'm assuming that whoever uploaded this video was the person involved in the video. So let's just take a look and see what we see.
What's up?
You guys live here?
Does it matter?
Yeah, it does.
Why?
Because you're hanging out in front of private
Oh,
property.
well, I'm a public street now.
Not him, he's sitting there.
Oh, well, sounds personal, no? Are you talking to me?
So what's up with the Nissan?
What Nissan?
The Nissan you were driving. You parked in there. I
was
saw
driving?
you. Yeah, you.
He was driving?
Is that you guys we saw on Sunset Boulevard? Like 10
He was
minutes
driving?
ago?
You both were in the car.
He was driving though?
One of you were driving.
Oh, so one of us. You were accusing him of driving. So which one is it? Was
One of you
one of us or
driving.
him?
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and interrupt here a little bit because I think it's important to understand what you just saw. It's interesting to me that the individuals involved in this video were already recording when the police officers showed up. Now, that could mean a bunch of different things, right? It could mean that they had seen the officers prior to this interaction and were anticipating being stopped but weren't for whatever reason. Or it could also mean that these individuals were involved in some type of conduct that would warrant police interaction. Maybe not necessarily to the degree of having reasonable suspicion or probable cause, but nonetheless, it's clear that these officers wanted to make contact with these 2 individuals and that the individuals that were being made contact with anticipated their arrival. So that says to me that something happened before this video started that caused this interaction to take place. Now, they reference a car and someone driving. We'll get into that more a little bit later, but the point that I'm trying to make is that we don't know what happened before this video, so it's difficult to draw any conclusions on whether or not this interaction is lawful as of right now. But it's also important to mention that at no point have these officers said to stop or made it apparent that these individuals are being detained. Generally, if you are being detained, an officer has to announce that or make it known that their intentions are to detain you and you are not free to go. This is why you often hear First Amendment auditors asking if they're free to go, because there are a lot of times where it's just kind of confusing on whether or not you're actually detained or whether you're free to go or what's actually happening right now. So if you just ask, am I free to go, the officer has to articulate to you whether or not you are. So the point I'm trying to make is that it might have been the most beneficial move right now to simply ask, am I being detained or am I free to go? If they say you're free to go, just walk away. There's no need to continue a conversation with a police officer that has not detained you, and there's barely a need to continue a conversation with an officer that has detained you. Just something to consider. Let's keep it rolling.
Hey, wait, why are you getting all worked up
Why
for?
you pull up on us for no reason? We're literally just sitting here
Okay.
and y'all come here.
You're good, but...
I know.
You guys live here?
Does it matter?
Yeah, it does matter.
Why? What if we're going to the park? What if I'm taking a break because my
What
leg
if?
hurts? Yeah.
Alright then, show me you live here and
You
I'll
see?
leave you guys alone.
What do you mean?
Because we're here for a radio call, So
You're here for a
trying
radio call?
trying to figure out what you guys are up to.
So why are you asking about the Nissan if you're here for a radio call?
Because we were coming this way, but we saw how you guys were speeding up the street. You guys realize this is residential?
Alright, now she brings an actual criminal element into this interaction. She claims that these individuals were speeding. Now, of course, if this officer clocked them on her radar as actually speeding, then she has a totally legitimate reason for stopping these guys and at least talking to them. But she would probably also have a reasonable suspicion to detain them for committing a traffic violation. Citizens are not absolved from committing traffic violations if they just park their car and get out. You can still be ticketed, arrested, stopped, detained for committing traffic violations, even if you park your car and get out and you're no longer driving. If an officer witnessed you committing a crime in a vehicle and they just didn't have enough time to catch up to you before you actually exited the vehicle, then they would still have reasonable suspicion to stop you and detain you. All that said, if this officer did catch these individuals speeding in a car, then she's probably well within her authority to stop and detain them. Now, if she did not have any objective evidence of them speeding and they don't match a description or fit any of the information that was provided over the radio call that she says she received, then she has no legal basis for detaining these individuals and they should be free to go.
So you're here for a radio call, but you came on us for the Nissan. That makes no sense. That makes no sense.
I'm the one asking.
One of you guys the registered owner of the car?
Right then, I don't have to answer questions.
Sir, oh man, is one of you guys the registered owner of the car? Yes, no, maybe?
Are we free to go or we're
You
just
guys,
No, yeah, you guys can leave.
No, so why you guys here?
Alright, he asked the question, right? And the officer confirmed that he is free to go. So as of right now, he should just get up and leave, walk away, exit the conversation, be done with this interaction. There's nothing to gain from speaking to these officers right now, especially if they're obviously trying to pin some kind of criminal activity on you. So, just so you know, once you hear those words, you're free to go, do that. Leave, get out of there. Don't sit around and conversate. There's no need for that. And that's exactly what these guys should have done. But let's get back into the video and see how it plays out.
If I go back there and I find the car, it's 6 months
can't even go
expired.
back there though.
Why?
You have a permit?
Oh, we
Permit?
can go back there. We don't need a permit.
You could go.
Yeah.
Permit?
That'd be crazy.
A warrant.
Oh, there we go. Warrant.
Warrant.
See, he knows. He knows.
You know what I
Oh, this
mean.
isn't my
Oh,
first day on the job.
so you can't go back there without a warrant, though, right?
No.
Oh, so you were just saying you could go back there.
Go back where?
You need to talk to her.
Hold on. I can walk back
I think
there.
you're
No,
smart.
no, hold on.
Okay, let's walk
You
back
think
there.
you're smart? You pulled up on us for no reason. For a radio call, huh?
Yeah,
Listen,
no
listen,
reason.
listen.
For a radio
Why
call.
are they here?
Listen, okay.
I don't know. I don't care.
Listen. If it's your car, listen. If it's your car, it's expired. So if it drives out on the street again, it's gonna get pulled over. It could get impounded. It could get cited. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm cutting you guys a break. I'm not gonna go back there. But if I go back there and I see it, I can technically take it. So.
So are you gonna take all the other cars that don't have tags too?
Well, I mean, you could do that.
You could?
But the thing is, I saw that car. That's on my
Have you
attention.
ever
So what about the
arrested
car that was
an
parked on
identity?
red? Why you guys didn't do nothing about that?
Alright.
There was literally an Acura parked right there. He literally made a U-turn in front of
You know,
you
man,
guys.
I'm only one cop, and I can only focus on
But
one
you
thing
see
at
what?
one time.
But why are you guys focusing on me? Is what I'm saying.
Wait,
Like,
what are you guys, like 15?
You know?
Should you be in school right now?
what?
How old are you?
Don't worry about it.
You're not gonna tell me?
For what?
You
For
look
what? No,
young.
answer for what? I'll tell you.
I'm just curious.
Oh, well, stay curious.
That was a great way to answer that question. He was under no legal obligation to tell them how old he was, and she obviously had some kind of intention by asking that question. She made that very known. Those are exactly the kind of questions you don't need to answer, especially in this context. And it's a little ridiculous to me that they're just taking their time to go through all this wordplay nonsense over an expired tag. Surely they have more important things to do than worry about two guys sitting on the side of a street with an expired tag of a parked vehicle. But once again, we don't know what exactly happened before this video. I mean, we do get a lot of context clues, but we didn't see it ourselves. So we can't really say whether or not this interaction is warranted. But so far, the officers haven't really done anything either. They've only engaged in a conversation with these two guys. It's not illegal for an officer to ask you questions that you don't want to answer. It just then becomes your responsibility as an individual to invoke your rights and tell them that you don't want to answer these questions, which is exactly what this guy did here. Of course, he could have remained silent a lot more often, but refusing to answer questions is good enough. And let's just see how it pans out for him.
Alright.
You guys said we're free to go, though, right?
You guys are good.
Yeah, I never.
Like I said, just watch your speed up the street because we get a lot of complaints here about people doing some shit up here, okay? So just watch your speed and no one's gonna bother you, and take care of the registration, whoever's car it is. Mr. Smiley. Alright, get out of here then.
I'm on a
I
public
said you're free to
street.
go.
Alright, so I can stay here. I'm free to stay. If
I
I'm
thought
free
you
to,
wanna go.
if I'm free to go, I'm free to
You
stay,
just
right?
asked me, can I go?
That's him. You're talking to me.
I
You're
thought
telling
you guys were together.
Oh,
You
well,
guys are a pair. You're a dude.
you got thought wrong.
Hey, this guy looks so happy to be
Hey, I don't know.
around
You know, I'm not gonna. You know, it's 2023. I'm not gonna question anybody's relationship. You know,
Yeah, don't
friends,
Have a
homies,
good day. Have a good
Yeah.
real
day.
close homies.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Hey.
Alright, so the video ends there. There is a little bit of context in the video's description. It basically says that they ended up going to the back of a different building, still looking for this Nissan that they supposedly saw, and that the male officer made comments about their parking job, basically insinuating that these two guys were definitely the ones driving this car. They also said that they needed to move the vehicle because it was blocking other people from parking. That's really all the context that we have beyond the video. But I gotta say that these individuals handled this situation pretty well. Of course, there were moments where they should have just stopped talking and walked away. Overall, I would say that they just did a relatively good job considering the circumstances. As for the officers, I wasn't really a fan of how they decided to carry out this investigation, if you will. It seemed like a lot of the things that they said were very hostile, were accusatory, and were not working in a positive direction. Now, I understand if these officers thought these guys might be speeding, thought they saw an expired tag, thought they had a legitimate reason to interact with these individuals, but of course that does not excuse how they carried out this stop. Granted, I will say they did respect the Fourth Amendment rights of these individuals. At no point did the officers actually detain anyone, they didn't arrest anyone. All they did was ask two guys some questions, and that's something that literally anyone can do. Everyone in this country is free to walk up to another individual and ask them a question, even if they don't want to be asked that question, as long as they're in public. And that's basically what happened here. Although their questions were somewhat inflammatory, I think that there's still something to learn here, which is that you can conduct an investigation without detaining people, without arresting anyone. You can just question people if you want. I feel like a lot of officers forget that they are well within their authority to walk up to people and question them for investigatory purposes. It's an investigative tool that I don't think enough officers employ. Oftentimes, just talking to people would give you just as much information as if you had detained them and put them in the back of a patrol car and went through an interrogation. So it's difficult to fault the officers for doing their job, but I can say that their job could have been done a little better. Anyway, that about sums up my opinion on this video, on these videos. Like I said before, let me know what you think of this type of content, of reviewing like the short form stuff. If you want my opinion on this stuff, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Of course, I always appreciate liking, subscribing, commenting, engaging with me in any way. Now that I'm posting regularly, I'm trying to get as much engagement on this channel as I possibly can, so any support would sincerely help. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.